So for the last half of 2022, Eduphoria really started pouring a lot into the student experience. If you haven't seen it already, we have a second tab in the student portal where students can view at a glance their test history, their test data, raw score, and percent score. If we look at what they see once they select a test from that list, which is on the next slide, we'll see that the link here goes to the student score summary. Students get to now review their answers. They see item level points earned. They can even see the scoring method that was used when scoring the item. And now they also see their standards and the reporting category. So allowing the students access to their standards brings us one step closer to student ownership, and it gives them more transparency into their learning and their assessments. This enhancement was very needed because we know that you all already have your own paper processes for students to track their standards and see kind of the mastery of their standards. And now the student score summary helps you fully support that process. So this is supporting local paper processes, the artifact we actually got from research related to student access and ownership of learning. This was actually from one of our teachers at Lamar ISD. It is a TEKS tracker sheet that she uses with her students. And she's been used to writing out the standards on the board or having the students use those tutoring test strips that they can find in Aware. She'd have to print them out, cut them up, give them over to their students, and then the students would have to copy down the standards in their TEKS tracking sheet. So one of the main deficits to that has always been that students can't actually see their questions. They're not able to preview the items that they actually answered. They can only see whether or not they got it correct, or the standard if you put that in that testing strip as well. And so now they get that full experience. They can see the questions, they can see how they answered them, they see the standards, and allowing the students to actually fill out that tracker sheet on their own is the first step to handing over ownership to them. No longer are they just being fed the standards information through you, they can actively seek it in the score summary. And so I definitely recommend, if you have something like this, you can give that over to them and make it like a scavenger hunt. Tell them to go into their student score summary, fill out their TEKS tracking sheet, how they did, and that can kind of be that first step to giving them that ownership and allowing them to be the ones to seek their information because they have this powerful tool at their disposal.
Thanks for all of those details, Kajisha. I think Emily has a question from the Q&A that she'd like to answer for the audience.
Sure. Lori asked a great question. She asked specifically, is student access an add-on or is it automatically available with Eduphoria? And we are thrilled to let you know that everything Kajisha is showing you right now is automatically available. We're going to show you exactly how you turn it on per test that you would like to turn on score summary, because some tests it may not be appropriate and you may not have that desire for students to see the answers that they missed. But this is a feature that is automatically available to anybody who has Aware, and it is available today.
Thank you for that clarification, Emily.
Thank you so much for answering that question for them. So we have another little engagement opportunity for you guys. So we've been focusing so much on the student experience and finding ways to give students opportunities to be active participants in their learning. And so I'm curious to know, what do you guys do? How are you using the student score summary tool right now? Yes, you are using it, and what's your process? And if not, be honest, let us know, but what would you like to use it for now that you've been able to see the power of it? Is there anything that you would want to adopt in your classroom or throughout your school using the student score summary? We see Lauren uses it for test corrections and remediation. That's awesome. Emily's going to share a little bit more to that later on.
And I love how in your example a moment ago, Kajisha, you showed how this could be used with an existing process that might be already taking place in your class, where students are using something like the test correction strips or another method to already track those standards. So I imagine lots of us that might not be using score summary have ways that this could complement current practices in their classroom.
Absolutely. And I love that the student score summary, just depending on how you want to use it, is very versatile in that way. See, Lori didn't know it existed. Well, now you do. And yes, have definitely through research, I've seen a lot of districts use it for their CBAs. It's a really good practice if you get into the process. And pass it off to.
Okay, great. I'm going to transition us a little bit and we're going to talk about informing instruction through assessment, but really we're going to focus on the lens of how does this affect students when we're talking about informing how they kind of instruct themselves and how they guide themselves through their learning. I think we can all agree that it is critical to give students immediate feedback, and it's desired by the students to have this information. If you give them results 2, 3 days, 5 days later, they're already tapped out. They're into many other things. And so that immediate feedback is very critical, which is why we love the student score summary. And so if not all teachers are practicing this, we're going to reach back out to you and see what your thoughts are. On the next slide, you can tell us. A good goal would be, how many teachers can we get utilizing this function, especially for that formative assessment practice within the classroom? And so what are your thoughts? How could teachers begin to learn about this? So you can tell us what you think might be helpful to get some of this information out, because a lot of you said you didn't know. And so I bet teachers also don't know. So how could you start spreading the word? And so we have a couple of options there. Students report their success. Teachers can model this in PLCs, teacher-led training, teacher walkthroughs. And what are some good ways in your district to get the word out? And sometimes it is students saying, hey, I like this. Will you turn this on? And so what are y'all's thoughts? What works in your district to help spread the word? Probably not an email, right? How many of us don't read our emails? All right, I'm seeing lots of C's. I see C and D, B and C. Nobody's voting A yet. Okay, I like it. Mostly B's, yeah, C's. Okay, very good. So you want to just get that word out when you're in face-to-face with the teachers. You want to probably show them this and then speak about some foundational practices. What tests do you want to use it on? And when do you want to use it? Those types of things. So thank you for your feedback. That gives you something to think about and some information to go share. We'll keep moving forward. And then we'll talk about when you go share this information out, it's always good to think through, how do we share this out? There are a variety of different means of conducting student score summary within a classroom. And so some of them could be whole group versus small group instruction. And so I always guide teachers in a way that I say, if you're going through it the first time, let's do it as a class. Let's go through it together and say, what does this look like? Everybody go to question 1. Let's talk through it just so they know the information they're seeing in front of them. Because like Kajisha showed, it'll have the reporting or the learning standards at the top. It's going to give them a lot of desired information for them to be able to navigate through. So of course, when you're establishing those practices at the beginning, whole group is beautiful for you to establish what this should look like and to establish what your expectations are for this practice. If you really just want to start out with kids just looking at it, that is completely reasonable. But also know that as you extend your practices, and maybe this is where you extend into small groups, there is a notepad tool that the students can use while in student score summary. That notepad tool that's also available when they're taking the test, they could write a justification. I know that I missed question 1 and I put B. However, now I know that A is the correct answer because, and they can write it into the notepad tool. That is live for a teacher to see. So the teacher can see exactly what that student's justifications are. So maybe you have them split off into small groups and start going through different questions together based on what they have missed. Or maybe even you have a third option and you get so good at this that students do it independently and they already have it down and it is ingrained. So they go through it independently and they rationalize and justifies those wrong answers. and give you some feedback so that you know they're not just saying A, they're giving you rationale for how they selected A. So, okay, I saw a question came in. How do we as teachers and coaches see what students see? So what you can do is, as a teacher in test proctoring, you can see the notepad tool live right next to the student's name. So you will see, for example, student's name, and over right under the section to the right of their name, it'll say the number 1. And if you click on the number 1, you can see exactly what the student wrote in the notepad tool. And so that gives you that insight, and the numbers will increase as they write those justifications per number. So yes, that is live information, which is why we love our notepad tool. It's not just a notepad. It really is a communication tool for students to be able to share with the teacher. Okay, so as we keep moving forward, then let's talk about, how do you turn this on? What does this look like? And some tips and tricks for using student score summary. So you can see right here on the online tab where you create an assessment. So in test authoring on the online tab, this is what it looks like. And you can see that button right there that we have in that orange box that says enable students to view responses. Okay, so this is how you turn on student score summary. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too, because we gave you a date window. This is fairly new, but we're giving you a range of time. So you get to decide when the students will see the answers. And this is important because you would want to make sure that all the students have taken the test potentially. You would want to make sure that it's maybe after the window of testing. And so some of those things you would definitely decide. If you want it to be within the testing window as well, you can put in your date window. So just thinking through, when do I want them to see it and when do I not want them to be able to see it? And so that is decided right here. In addition, some things that are very helpful for you to know is that even if you're utilizing Lockdown Browser and the student has already assessed, when they log back in to do student score summary and view their assessment results, they do not have to go back through the Lockdown Browser, okay? So you can use Lockdown Browser, log back in the normal way, and students can view their results. And so it's not that painstaking, I'm going back into the Lockdown Browser. So that is helpful as well. If you are utilizing other tools such as randomization, this is always a popular question. Oh my goodness, is their question 1 the same as my question 1? And it is. So if randomization is enabled at the test level, then when students go back in to utilize score summary, their question 1 is the same as yours. So it goes back to the order of which the test was authored. So if question number 1 is put on the assessment where you're authoring, that will also be their question number 1 at that point. So very clear and easy to use. We're not looking at different information. And then again, we already talked about how that notepad tool can be utilized within the proctoring window for those justifications, those rationale for score summary, and for those missed answers. Okay.
Before we move
yeah, go
on,
ahead.
Emily, we have a question related to enabling the student score summary window. Can you let us know, or Kajisha, what happens if we leave that date range blank?
That's a good question. I will lean on Kajisha. What happens if they leave the date range blank? Oh, we may not be able to hear her.
Sorry. If you leave it blank, it will not show up for the student.
Okay, you have to pick a date. Very good.
Yes, but it is really quick to just go in and put that date. If you forgot to put it in, but you enabled it, you can always go back and put that start and end date, and you can move it as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And you can change your mind several times if you would like, and that's reasonable too. Then the option, if yours is grayed out, okay, so Somebody at your district level has access to turn on score summary review. That means no one at your district has enabled student score summary review. So they can go to the test type, and there is a setting for this feature to be enabled, because we do understand that some districts still give blind type assessments, or they have very restricted assessments and they do not want score summary to be turned on. Very reasonable. So you can turn that off at the test level so that no one will enable score summary, because that test maybe is not appropriate for that type of information. So again, it's under the test type to be turned on, and teacher tests are automatically enabled. So any teacher writing their own test can automatically turn this on. Great questions.
Thanks for those
Okay.
additional details. We also had one come up in the chat, how randomization and student score summary work together. So the great thing is, when randomization is enabled, this is only impacting the student's experience taking the online test. Once they enter the student score summary, all students will have the test presented in the order that it was written. So it'll match your data analysis, and all students will then have the same experience navigating the test from student score summary.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Tara. That is correct. All right. Hopefully those tips and tricks were helpful. Now we're going to talk a little bit about credit. This is always, when I go out and train teachers and work with them, either the order the questions come from teachers. So I'm trying to kind of guide you through what teachers normally ask me. And this is very quickly the next question. Okay, so what do we do about credit? So if I want to give students credit because they've gone in there and they have remediated some of their work, what does that look like? And so here's how I have this conversation. I'm going to start out by saying, this is part of your local policy. And so I always say, what is your local policy for grading? Because you would want to make sure that you understand that. And then know, here's how Eduphoria can help you based on what your local policy is. So option one is that you can allow students to take the test, they can correct it, and then you can automatically apply credit in your grade book based on what your local policy is. So in other words, you're not changing anything in Aware. You're using every feature in Aware, and then you're just altering the final grade in the grade book. For a lot of the schools I work with, this is what they do based on their policy, and they just document out themselves within their grade book that actual grade and why they allowed credit. So that is one option. Option two is going to be a little bit more detailed and take a little bit more time, but some districts do this. They make a copy of the assessment and let their students go back in, and they add their new answers, and they add in the notepad their justifications. Now you have two test administrations. So this really allows you that visual appeal to see, here's test one and we have that grade. Here was test two, and now we have that grade. And then of course, from there, you can enter whatever's desired based on your policy within the grade book. So some districts do it that way as well, so that they have both of those administrations. And then option three, my previous districts that I worked in, we did nothing, do nothing, but allow this process to support learning. And so they weren't altering any grades. Your grade stands as is, and this is only to support that learning and remediation pathway moving forward. So those are kind of some of the options that we hear about giving credit and what you can do for that as well. Okay, now I think we are transitioning into talking about setting goals with assessment. So this is the next step. After you, in my advice, after you have started using the score summary tool, then after you've mastered it and you feel comfortable, what's the next step? We always want to keep growing our practices. So this level of comfortability looks very different for a lot of teachers, but as a teacher says, okay, I'm good with this process, how can we extend this? And so this is where we start saying, let's have students set goals. Let's have them take that ownership and say, okay, well, I know that I missed this concept. So what am I going to do? And so we're asking you We love to hear feedback from this particular question, because are you having students do goal setting? And if so, what does it look like? We gave you a couple of options. Yes, students write a goal. Students write an area of reinforcement and refinement or something to that degree. Students chart their progress on standards. Maybe you're a mix of all of the above, in which case, high five, that's awesome. Or we are just getting started and we're really just starting to talk about exploring student goals. So kind of where are you with your district? We love learning how many districts are really having students take ownership of their assessment data. Yay, look at you, D's. I see lots of D's. Awesome. We have a C. And a B. Okay, haven't seen any E's yet, which is a perfectly fine answer. What I absolutely love is at my daughter's school, she has such a great practice for this, that she can tell me exactly what standards she missed and what her goals are. And she even provides rationale for why she thinks she missed these particular skills. And she has a bucket that she goes and grabs an activity based on the learning standard, and she starts immediate activities to help herself learn the content. I mean, beautiful, right? So she already knows exactly what to do and where she is. So absolutely love that she takes full ownership and she can speak that language. So very powerful. All right, so let's continue that conversation. And what does that look like? We provided several different examples of what maybe student goals look like. So they can be adding in what their activity is that they're doing with it. This is the most popular one. We are coloring in exactly where we got with this skill set, and we're continuing to grow those colors over time. We also see, like I said with my daughter, what are my goals and how am I going to meet that goal and why do I need to achieve that goal? So there's always just a variety of different paper opportunities that we're seeing with students. I think we had one more. Yep. And so giving them that actual language of the standard, and then they can rate it and set a date for when they want to set that skill. So again, this is really just to show there's a variety of paper options. There's no right or wrong. It's just what is the teacher's comfortability level and where do they want to start with this. And so that's really where we're going to, in the next slide, kind of wrap up this concept and talk about where do you begin? And so in these conversations with teachers, you get to share, yay, check out this cool feature in Aware that you can enable after students have taken a test. And so allow them to kind of rate themselves. How comfortable do you feel with this activity? Because if so, you might want to start with just enabling it and just making students log back in and look at it. That is perfectly reasonable. But if not, if you feel like you can take it a step further, how long do you want students to review their scores, and what do you want them to do with it? Are there activities that you're doing a whole group within the classroom for this? And then again, of course, now that they've taken this level of understanding what they missed, what is the very next step? So just looking at it as a piece that you can grow in. I know we've all made the mistake of trying to do everything at one time. So whatever can we do to handle taking on this process and making it become part of our everyday practice? So that's how we like to lean into that.
I love how in what you're describing, Emily, you're really exemplifying that goal setting with students and a lot of these practices exist on a spectrum. There's not a single right way of doing this. And even within one classroom, there's multiple tools or processes we might engage in to help our students be successful here. So thank you for illustrating multiple ways that this looks. And I think that's been reflected in how everyone's sharing their feedback of what this looks like for them. It is on that spectrum of multiple ways we engage here.
Absolutely. We love it. And this also depends a lot on the age of your kiddos in the classroom too, and how you want to orchestrate it. So since we've talked about goal setting, we're now going to talk about student confidence, and I'm going to hand it over to Kajisha. This is a brand new feature. So if you zoned out for a little bit, you might want to zone back in. This is a brand new feature that's releasing tonight, and we're so excited about it. So take it over, Kajisha.
Thank you so much, Emily. So we focused a lot on the things that you currently have. So we wanted to take this opportunity to show the powerful, meaningful student feedback tool that if you have Aware Premium, you'll have very, very soon. So in Aware Premium, students can now rank their confidence per question during their online assessment. So as you can see on the screen, it's just going to be a little tool that'll be in their online assessment. They click on the smiley face and they're able to actually let you know how they feel about their answer. Do they feel that they've got it? Do they feel like they're almost there? They're kind of struggling a little bit. Or are they still learning? They have no confidence in their answer currently. This tool is going to be a game changer if you pair it with the formative assessment processes that we've talked about, assessment review processes, and goal setting, because it actually allows your students to give you actionable feedback during their test regarding where they think they are in the process of learning. The language is kid-friendly and it focuses on whether the student feels that they fully understand what they're doing or whether or not they feel they lack complete understanding. So this one you were sharing at the beginning of the session. Awesome. So for educators, this tool is so important to provide insights to the students' decision-making process and their metacognitive skills. As you can see here, this is the data analysis portion. So after the students go ahead and rank their confidence, you can actually go into data views and you can see right next to their selected response also their confidence response. And so what I've done really quickly is I say, all right, if we have green, as in the selected response was correct, I should see high confidence underneath there. If I don't, then I know that there's a disconnect there. For some reason, the student maybe didn't feel as confident as the correct answer that they chose. And in those kinds of instances, you can start to really break down where the student was in their decision making and why they made the choice that they did based on how they feel about the choice that they made. And you can also see this from a summary level. So we can go from individual student and then summarize it up to an entire middle school, an entire district, and you can see the actual percentage breakdown for each question and where the students rank themselves. And that can give you some really, really powerful information, especially when we talk about self-efficacy, group self-efficacy throughout the classroom, throughout the district. How are your students feeling overall? That gives you that holistic view to your students. You can go to the next slide. So a great idea is to actually dig deeper. So when you pair the students' confidence responses with their student support usage, you can actually figure out a lot. So if they say that they're not confident, and then you go to the student support usage report and you see that they did not use any of the supports that they have, ding, 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 you should probably tell them to use their supports. So they can use their content clarifiers, their text to speech, their calculator. And vice versa, if the students are confident and then you look and they haven't used any of their supports, maybe that tells you something else too. And so it gives you that extra lens because seeing their performance is only one half of the story. And understanding your students, having them self-reflect and use that information to inform instruction moving forward. And then we have the learning standards of student confidence. So within single test analysis, this is another Aware Premium feature, as everything has been. If you are analyzing from a single test, you'll actually get to see the student confidence within the learning standards summary. And so this is really powerful. You're going to be able to see the confidence to DOK. And so when you're looking at that data, you can actually see whether or not students are confident with a standard that maybe it was tested at DOK1 and DOK2, and their confidence was lower in DOK2 than in DOK1. And so when you're going into your intervention periods or you're doing reteach, you now know that you don't have to start at DOK1. You don't have to start at the recall phase. You can move up and start reteaching from where they actually struggle rather than going through and doing it from the beginning. And that will save you a lot of time in the long run. And ultimately, the feature is to allow you and your students to celebrate the current successes that they have and work together on fostering a greater understanding for the material that they're less sure about. This feature will be released later today, like Emily mentioned. We will have online help guide articles that will be linked towards this as well. This will be enabled by default on any new assessments. If you have any pending assessments that you have not administered yet, you can enable confidence if you'd like. And if you don't know if you have this feature, if you're not sure, you can reach out to your district Eduphoria contact. If you are the district contact, you can reach out to our sales team or your account manager in order to understand if you have the feature, and if not, how you can get it if you're interested.
Thanks so much, Kajisha. And just to reiterate some of that last information that she shared, if you are uncertain if you have access to Aware Premium, or if you would like to get access for your district, your next steps would be to either email your account manager for Eduphoria or sales@eduphoria.net in case you're not knowledgeable of who that individual might be as your account manager, or you'd like to make sure you follow up on that information. Sales@eduphoria.net is a great place to start. If you are kind of not that contact for your district, you can reach out to your local district Eduphoria manager to help initiate this conversation. What to expect after sending that email is a cost proposal for an Aware Premium license based on your district utilization. So we're being really mindful of how you're using the tools, providing some recommendations as you move forward. So those are your next steps to be able to initiate that.
Okay, so now we're going to bring a lot of this together and talk about how you can engage students through assessment. And so the lens that we really want to look at this is making sure that students know how to help themselves on assessment. So let's start out by hearing from you with our next little question. And our question is really focused on, do your teachers have a practice of making sure that they guide students in using the online testing tools? And we understand that they don't need to do this for every assessment, but this is a good practice at the beginning of the year. Maybe we repeat this practice at the middle of the year. And maybe it's something that we're slightly tapping shoulders on students and saying, hey, did you know that you have text to speech? Making sure that they do understand this. So do teachers in your district have a practice of going through and sharing this information with students? And you can tell us yes, some, maybe, and where you're at in your district. Okay, as I suspected, a lot of y'all are B's. Some do and some don't. That's what, I mean, I would say that's what I hear the most when I go out to districts, is some teachers do take the time and some don't. And so we're going to talk through some of the things that go into that. I have actually seen this year a dramatic change in student behavior in classrooms where they have gone through an overview of their tools and versus the classrooms where they haven't. A lot of students just do not click on these options if they aren't really introduced to them. And that's all age ranges. You might be a little bit surprised that they're not necessarily going in there and actively clicking on everything. If they do, they may not understand how it helps them to showcase their learning. So do they even know that it's available, and extend that? Do they know how to use that tool effectively? So you can guess it's a conversation I have with my daughter on the regular, is we go through and say, how do you utilize these tools and how is it helping you in your learning and to showcase your learning? So as we continue to look at what some of those options are, you can see here, these are specific supports by every student, making sure that they understand, if they have that enabled, that they should be using that. And Kajisha leaned into, you can run a report and see, are they using it? Great to coincide with confidence, but also great to just understand if they're receiving this support and they're not using it, you can expect their results may not be what they could be. And so definitely tapping into those data points and making sure that students have them. As some of the last pieces that we're really showing are just every tool that every student has is really going to be a big priority. So on the next slide, it'll just show you an overview of there are lots of tools that every student has access to. And so making sure that they know. To extend on that, I even asked my daughter, we have multiple colors for a highlighter. How does that benefit your learning and showcasing your learning on an assessment? And she'll tell me, I underline or I highlight words that I'm struggling with in green. The concepts I really understand, I highlight in yellow. And so I can go back and find those. If I need to, I am using that dictionary so that I can look up these words that I'm struggling with. And of course, question elimination or answer choice elimination is a huge one for younger students, making sure that they understand which questions they have completed. That's showcased at the bottom. So really taking time to go through these, I think, is a critical skill that I'll just be honest, I've noticed as I've been going to schools is missing. But when I lean over students and say, hey, did you know you could do this? It automatically impacts their practice every day and allows them to showcase their learning much better than by not understanding how to use those tools. So again, we just want to really reiterate, make sure that we're not assuming every student knows what these tools are and what to do with them, and taking the time to really make sure they understand how to use them to really demonstrate their learning on an online test, because it is a brand new world and we are used to a lot of paper. And so this transition is not to be taken lightly. All right, so as we kind of conclude that concept, I'm going to hand it over to Tara, and Tara's going to talk a little bit more about training and support and what we offer for your districts along those lines.
Thanks so much, Emily. So I'm super excited to share with you all this afternoon some ways that our training is made available to our districts. So we all know that you are here because you are a continuous learner. And in our webinars, you're getting updates, you're getting general overview content, but you're not getting a lot of that structured how-to or connections to your local processes specifically and guidance on those. So while we are getting some feedback from you on what your local practices look like, and we can make some commentary there, we're not sitting down with you in that really structured environment to say, okay, this is your process. Here's what it can look like with aware tools, and let's expand and go deeper. So I'd love to show you a couple ways that we are able to provide that to our local districts. So through our training and services, some ways that we can support your local needs is through some general training hours. We make sure to tailor these events specific to what your needs are. And this is available any time of year. We definitely do have peak season in the summer as districts are preparing for the next school year. And this time of year, sometimes we start to see that up ramp to prepare at the beginning of the year as we're resetting and re-engaging with our students when they return in January. With this, we have virtual and on-site options. Those virtual options can be super, super flexible. So if there's a topic that you only need for an hour, we can work with the PLC team. We can be super flexible to the audience that you would like to learn about a specific topic, or we can meet with larger groups of staff as well. With this, we do have access to our 3E digital learning courses so that you can do some more of that self-guided learning as you are available. In that way, teachers can really take away what they need when they need it. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like here in a moment. Some other ways that we package our training, or some of the options that we have for training. So some of the topics, we have building assessments where we can really go start to finish. What does it take to create an assessment using aware tools? We can also do things like audit. So maybe you've had a local transition in your district. We can look at your data analysis tools, like some of the questions we've had come up about test types and having that score summary enabled. Those are things we can look at together, provide you the background context and help you be informed in making that decision for your district of where do we want student score summary applied on our test types and where might we want to keep this disabled. And then we do offer consulting packages where we can get into the nitty gritty of things that are changing in our education world, like House Bill 4545. So we make sure to be really responsive to the changing climate of education as we're all used to, and provide you information related to hot topics. A way that we can bundle services is something called a jetpack, and this is really a consulting package to help launch you in a really specific area. It's responsive to your district's immediate needs, and we engage in a needs assessment to help identify those. And our goal here is to align this to accelerate one of your goals locally. So we have dedicated time for leadership to engage in planning to make sure that this meets your needs. We start with baseline time here, and then we tailor the rest of the time to align with that local goal. So that might be tailoring what's the specific audience we're sitting with, or tailoring some of the training. So we'll give you options of different topics, and we'll select what best meets your needs based on the goal that you've outlined with us. So one way that this jetpack could look is for Aware, we offer a jetpack for data analysis. And so we're really, again, our objective here is to align training topics with goals that you have. So working with data analysis and a jetpack could really help accelerate you on the student goals journey that we've been talking about this afternoon. So again, we start with that collaborative work session to review your Aware configuration, coordinate training needs, and start to get things scheduled with the different participants you'd like to engage. Then members of your district and campus team. So this could be down to the classroom level with your teachers, or it could be at that campus admin or district admin level. And we'll go over things like fundamentals of data analysis, intermediate data analysis, and teacher data analysis. So we can really bundle this to meet the needs of your audience. And maybe we offer a single session on fundamentals of data analysis for those that are new, and then we offer multiple sessions on intermediate data analysis that everyone might need a refresher or to re-engage in. So we really make sure that this is tailored to your needs. And as mentioned before, with many of these options, you'll have access to our 3E digital learning curriculum. So this is a course that is set up for you, and we're going to dive in and see a little bit of an overview of how you can navigate this area. So what we're going to see is the site that is available for teachers. This is a free service that we offer. If you would like some more oversight of your teachers engaging in this, we do offer a data package that will help you see their completion rate and how they're doing on these different units. So I'm going to navigate to our Aware section. And here I can see the outline of the full course. The things that we've been talking about this afternoon really connect with this Unit 6 on teacher data analysis. This is structured so I can hop in anywhere. I don't need to start at Unit 1. I don't even need to, once I get to my unit, start with Module 1 within that unit. So I'm able to freely navigate based on what it is I need to learn. These are going to be really quick topics so that you can dive in, review what's in your site, and practice doing this as well. So for example, if I'm wanting to learn more about centralized use, I'm able to view the content as well as engage with the online help. So maybe this helped introduce me to the topic watching the video. I can then go to the online help and continue with that guided learning as I am going through the content. So we really wanted to reflect that some of us might learn through reading and some of us might learn through that more visual guidance of the video content. And then if I'm choosing to engage with this with my professional learning community or with others at my district, we also have some self-reflection questions. So this can be really a way that either I sit and reflect on my own practices. I might bring it up in my coaching with in a walkthrough environment, or in our PLC, we can set goals to say, okay, let's tackle Unit 6 and then let's talk about these questions. And so this is a really great way to get started, give some self-guided practice for teachers, whether they're new, needing a refresher, or just wanting to make sure that they're as informed as possible on what's available to them with our tools. So we have this structured for Aware and Strive, and we are working on updating the content so that it will also reflect the new navigation that you can already access through Aware Beta. So we'll have updates coming over the next several months to keep you informed on those changes. Okay. So I hope that gave you some more insights into how this can be structured and how we can really tailor and support your district and meet you where you are and help accelerate your learning opportunities at that local level. Whereas here in the webinars, you're getting more of that general guidance and opportunities to connect for more.